Let's go. Let's go.
Are we clapping ourselves?
Oh, he's doing the claps.
Yeah, all right, we're clapping and
Let's go.
Our claps set.
Hey, what up, what up, what up, what up? Welcome, y'all. Welcome, y'all. This is a very, very, very special episode of This Week in White Supremacy. This is our
week in Black Excellence.
This week, This Week in Black Excellence.
Because white supremacy could be a metaphor for cocaine.
Oh.
Oh, look at you coming with bars off the gate.
You know what I do.
Out the gate.
You know what I do.
Is that a rebrand from last week?
All I know is the nigga sitting behind Jasiri got a head like a boneless ham.
Oh wow, we coming. Oh no, now this dude got to get on the mic. No, the person behind me is a legend.
Boss,
a legend in the city. You know what I'm saying? Sitting behind.
Oh my
Grow
God.
up. It is 2023.
Yo, he started out.
Still got to pause
We
that.
are better. We're not doing toxic masculinity. It's 2023.
Hey yo, I got an all-star row. I got two of the best DJs in the city. You know what I'm saying? I got QRX. I got the legendary DJ Big Phil. I got NLS Ron in the building. You know what I'm saying? Like with the fresh guy. I got but I got Chipper over here. You know what I'm saying? I got Ross. You know what I'm saying? Represent One Hood Power. Yeah, I do. I got an all-star row. No disrespect to the people behind Miracle and Trouble. You know what I'm saying? No disrespect to them. So we have a live studio audience.
Again,
we're broadcasting on Martin Luther King Day.
Yeah.
Right.
And I got to post my favorite meme.
You did get to post your favorite meme.
I wait all year to post this meme.
Well, so let's do the introduction so we can introduce our very, very, very special guest. My name is Jasiri X. I'm co-founder, CEO of One Hood Media, and across from me,
it's your girl, Big Blessing with the big blessing. It's a miracle.
Hashtag Big Blessing.
Hashtag Big Blessing.
Yes.
We're making it. We're here.
coming with the lion in the building, the lion man. Yes,
turned up today.
I like that. And sitting next to you,
It's Trouble NLS, Never Like Supremacy.
Yes.
Neighborhood. Damn, I forgot my own name.
the next level shaman.
There we go. You feel me?
I think Trouble's mic seems a little bit low.
Yeah,
If we
just
could,
a little.
if we could pull Trouble up, you know what I'm saying? And you got the treble clef on your
You know what I'm saying?
jacket.
And
You know
then
what I'm
what's
saying?
special about today, I won an Emmy for a poem in which I said, and Martin Luther King said it best, you stand in the way of freedom when you're more, I'm forgetting the line, when you are more devoted to order than to justice.
Ooh, yeah. Do we want to maybe have these? I don't know whose bag that is, but we can maybe have some folks sit right here. Folks is coming in. You know what I'm saying? We got it packed out. Okay, these are the these are the young. So
My bag. You can sit that on the ground.
we got some books for y'all. We want to make sure our guests have some books. So let me come to you, brother.
Yeah.
Yes.
The revolutionary but gorgeous.
Okay.
The supreme Asiatic intelligently divine.
Okay.
Let's go.
You know, neighborhood supervillain.
Okay.
Full-time supervillain, part-time hater.
Yeah, got the next level shape up. You know
Come
what I'm
on,
saying?
man. Hardest crack baby alive.
Come on.
Come on, bro.
My velvet voice
Come on.
villain.
The velvet voice villain. All of that. Come
My
on.
waffle
Wait.
colored wonder
Hold up.
twin.
Yeah, the
Let's
waffle-
get
listen,
it.
all of that. Listen.
Let's get it.
I don't. The
Hardest crack
That's gonna be
baby
your
alive.
next. That's gonna be the title of your next album. Hardest track, baby.
It's only right.
That's a crazy title.
The whip
on,
to
man.
the walk.
Come on, listen.
And sitting to my right, you know, a legendary figure, just period. A man that's lived a legendary life. A man who has, really affected, the outcome of the world that we live in right now to a very, very, very major degree. Coming all the way from South Central Los Angeles. Man, where would hip hop be without Freeway Ricky Ross? Man, thank you for being here with us today, brother.
Glad to be here.
Yeah.
Man, wow. So we have, a lot. I mean, we have a lot of questions. We don't do a lot of interviews. When we do interviews, we've been bringing some powerful figures on, and you are, you might be number one right now.
I'm gonna say, number one. Like,
Yeah. So I did want to start, and by the way, look good, man. You look great, man. And, I'm glad to see you in good health. Yeah.
My man hooked me up.
Yeah. Shout out to NLS Ron, man. He gave the fresh shape ups. You know what I'm saying? I did want to start, your life is really expansive, but I really want to just start with where we are right now, because we're at a moment in, our community, right, where we're seeing an uptick in violence, right? And we're seeing a lot of, we had a situation here in Pittsburgh where like a funeral was shot up, like in the church, kind of experienced this. We're seeing a lot of young people murdered. A lot of it is connected to, the drug game, what's happening in our community. So I just wanted, as somebody who really lived through one of the most violent eras that happened in our community, just how do you see the situation in our communities right now? And do you see or do you feel like your life experience provides some type of solution to what we're going through right now?
Absolutely. I totally understand what we're going through. And to be honest with you, I believe that rap music has a lot to do with the violence that's going on right now.
Okay.
Because most of our young people are getting their information from rap music.
Okay.
Most of our heroes right now are rappers.
Right.
And if you listen to the music that they play, it's funny. I was online a couple months back, and this guy was interviewing one of the biggest radio station owners in the country, and he asked him. He said, "Would you play music where people were talking about killing dogs and cats?" And he said, "Absolutely not." He said, "Would you play music where they were talking about killing black men?" And he said, "It's a Cardinal who's saying it."
Oh, wow.
And when I heard that, it was like, it just kind of took me back. Like, damn, you won't play about killing dogs and cats, but you will play about killing black men. And with me, it really affects me because I understand how I started selling drugs. See, I was a tennis player with the ambition of becoming a tennis star. And one of my older cousins took me to the movie theater, and we watched this movie called Superfly. And that was the first time I ever heard about cocaine. I ever saw cocaine on screen or anything like that. And what I noticed is that the character that was playing Superfly, I fell in love with him. And I liked him so much that when the opportunity came for me to indulge in his lifestyle, I jumped at the bit, and I really feel that movie really influenced me into getting into the cocaine business. And,
wow.
And I'm saying that the same thing right now is happening to our young people, but it's not cocaine; it's more just straight violence.
Right. So, man, I mean, you kind of went to a place, man, and I didn't even think you would go, but I think it's powerful, right? And I'm talking about pop culture. So when you see, you have a, influential rapper that has your name, so like when you see, two of them, really. Yeah. Two of them.
It's been four.
Oh, damn. It's four.
Yeah.
Who the other two?
The Freeway Boys, they out of Cincinnati.
Okay.
And he used to be Freeway Rich, but he calls himself Rich the Factor now.
Oh, okay.
I don't even know that, man.
Wow. So how do you then feel like it's necessary to to use your platform as somebody who, you not only went through, were one of the biggest, drug kingpins that we've ever seen. And now you're out, you know what I'm saying? So like, what pressure does that make you feel in terms of like how you use your platform or your voice?
Well, I won't really say pressure, but I feel an obligation to counteract what I see happening, because when I first started selling drugs, cocaine, I didn't know that it was as detrimental as it was. I thought it was kind of like how we use marijuana right now. Everybody does marijuana, and it's a cool thing to do. Right. And that's the way I looked at cocaine. It was only later when I found out how addictive it was that I started to rethink my position. When I first started, I thought that I was lifting up my community, helping my friends get money, helping myself get money, being able to take care of our families. But as I went on, I started to learn some ugliness about the game that I wrestled with.
Right.
You know, I'm not going to tell you that I didn't wrestle with being a drug dealer. You know, some of my cousins got hooked on drugs, and their moms and their daddies would come to me and be like, "You selling that stuff to my kids?" You know, and those things start to affect you as a person. You know, your conscience start to deal with you. But before that, I never knew, you know, that it was gonna turn to that. So what I'm saying is that a lot of these rappers may not understand the detriment that they're doing to their community,
right?
And the history. Like, I don't want to go down in history as a drug dealer. You know, when I sold drugs, I kind of hid it. You know, I didn't want people to know I was a drug dealer,
right?
You know, but I wanted the money. You know, I needed the resources. I had no other resources. You know,
yeah.
If you black and you come up with a great idea for a business, where do you go to get the cash? You know, how do you get started? Well, in our neighborhood, it was through drugs, you know, and that's why I see so many of these rappers, they glorify the drug business, because I understand that it probably was a drug dealer that paid for their first studio time, bought their first drum machine,
right.
You know, gave them the money to get started, and they gravitate to that because that's where they come from,
right?
You know, but at the same time, we have to start to understand that if we continue down this road that we're going down, you know, like we just heard self-destruction on the radio, you know, we're going to self-destruct.
Right. So how do you see, I mean, because right now we're seeing very high-profile court cases involving hip-hop artists, right? We're seeing, you know, Young Thug and YSL in Atlanta, even YSN in Atlanta, and you have a situation where, you know, folks like me, I wouldn't want, like, I don't think it's fair to use like a rapper's lyrics in court. So how do you see, like, I mean, because we're seeing a situation, particularly in Atlanta, where, you know, there's a question or not if one of the hip hop artists, like, did he snitch? Did he not tell? So how do you, as somebody that's been through, you know, you've been through the streets, you've been through the court system, how do you see what seems like to be a targeting of rappers but they are, you know, espousing violent lyrics? Like, how do you see that?
Well, first of all, let me say this here. I had always wondered why they hadn't been charging them with crimes that they say on their records.
Right.
Because, say for instance, if the cops would have, if I'd have made a record when I was coming up.
Yeah.
And the prosecutor would have got a hold to it, and on the record I'm saying, "Oh, I sell hundreds of kilos every day," that tape would have been played in my courtroom.
Right.
And my jury would have had, in federal court, they don't really have to have what a lot of people think is evidence, you know, like you would think that they had to have. Like in my case, I was convicted because my guy said, "Oh, in 2 years ago, me and him was at a hotel room. He had 10 kilos and he sold it to this guy." And that's evidence. That can be used against you. The jury can say, do I believe the informant or
right.
do I not believe the informant? If they believe the informant, then I had 10 kilos that day. If they don't believe him, then I didn't have anything. So what I'm saying is that they could take those tapes from the law that I read. And I read a lot of law books
right.
while I was in jail. That it became my number one passion is law, because I had a life sentence without the possibility of parole. So my life was on the line, and I just dove into these books after I learned how to read. And I saw cases where they just use tapes against you. You know, it'd be, if I record you in a conversation, me and you talking, and we talking about drugs, or we talking in code, then they would have whoever break the code down and tell them exactly what they're talking about. So now if you got somebody bragging about how much dope they sold and how many people they killed, they can use that as evidence. But
so you don't accept the argument that people will say, okay, well, that's art, similar to like the movie Superfly, right? The guy who portrayed, you know, that character wasn't really doing that. So you don't accept the argument of a rapper saying, oh, I'm just, you know, this is what I rap about. This is not really what I'm doing in real life.
Well, I think with that too, that should be known. You know, the artist has to come forward and
True.
say, hey, you know, really, I was a correctional officer at one time. I've never.
Come on. We going there already?
I never really sold dope.
Yeah.
You know, never in my life have I sold dope. Well, you know, like with the guy who took my name, Rick Ross, we deposed him.
Right.
And when we deposed him, he literally sit there and tried to come up with a crime that he had committed before. And he couldn't. And the one that he could come up with, well, one time I got caught with a marijuana joint.
Oh, wow.
So what I'm saying is that, and nobody really knows, he don't come out and, you know, on a news conference. He don't do a news conference and say, oh, I'm not really a drug dealer.
Right.
Def Jam gave me the money to buy this house and the cars, a loaner car, and, you know, all the jewelry is not really mine, you know, and if they don't do that, then the kids are under the impression that this is how you made it. You know, that the end of the rainbow for a drug dealer is a record deal with Def Jam and
True.
And Beyonce, and, you know, you're going to get married to Beyonce. And so when you have all of these people preaching the same message, it starts to sink in. And for, you know, for a 12 or 13-year-old kid, they gullible to that kind of stuff, you know.
Absolutely.
They can't get jobs, you know, there's not really jobs for them. So you can only expect them to start to live out those things that their heroes are telling them to do.
So I have one more question I want to bring in, you know, my co-host. You talked about deposing, and we're talking about the rapper Rick Ross. So I had two questions. One, like, how does it feel like somebody actually used like your name for street credibility? But what was the, like, what happened after the deposition? You deposed him. Like, what was the, you know, what was the decision?
Well, I should have filed my lawsuit, they say 5 days before I got out of prison. So I lost the case, you know, statute of limitations.
Oh, wow.
You only get 2 years to if somebody, it's like having a car accident. You know, somebody run into your car, and if you don't sue them within 2 years, then you lose your right to that case. You know, so he wound up winning in court under statute of limitations.
Have you had any communication since then, or?
No, none at all. I reached out, you know, online, and it didn't go well, you know.
Gotcha. Yeah, but I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure it's a. So I just want to.
Yeah. So I get real protective over hip hop, right? I get super protective over it, and I always like to come when we have these conversations around community violence based around the artistic form of hip hop. I always cite two examples. One, what was Marvin Gaye's dad listening to when he shot his son? It wasn't rap. And then also when Roger killed Zapp, it wasn't rap. Whether you go to Superfly, whether you go to any decade, right, we've had these issues of violence in the community that are always painted in an artistic way, right? I think no matter where you look at it, violence when it comes to black people was always something been profitable by white supremacist tactics.
True.
And it's always been alluring and enticing and really sexy for one reason or another. I'm not going to sit here and go down that rabbit hole. But when I look at hip hop right now, and, you know, we see YSL, you know, getting hit with a RICO. We see, you know, I think there has been enough blueprints of what the federal government does to hip hop with hip hop police and investigating certain rappers to specifically put the onus on the rapper and not the record label. Like you said, you were seeing the interview with the brother from the radio station that wouldn't play a certain type of music, right? Where does the responsibility from the label come in? Where does the responsibility from the manager, the A&R, you know, these people to sit there and just put it specifically on? And I'm not coming at you. I'm just saying.
I don't think you are, but but I agree with you.
Yeah,
but they're the puppet masters.
Right, absolutely, yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
The artists are basically just the puppets, you know.
But let me say this. If I'm a rapper, right, you know what I'm saying? We all come from the same area.
I mean, you are a rapper.
I am. I'm nice.
I'm
nice. Revolutionary but gorgeous on all digital streaming platforms right now. Plug that. But no, so we growing up the way we grow, we see everybody kind of doing the same things, right? If that's my lifestyle, how much am I supposed to omit? If that's all I know, if all I know is, of course, we're not going to say nobody's names on records, right? But if that's my story and I want to take control of my narrative and put it on a record and say, you know what, these men was doing this around me. I may or may not have participated in this. The man adjacent to me may or may not have participated in this. My team may or may not participate in this. If that's all I know, what are you expecting to get out of me? I can't sit here and talk about going overseas yet. I haven't been there.
Yeah, I don't think, and not to speak for you, I'll let you answer. I don't think.
I would just postulating that out in the universe, for the listeners.
I don't think necessarily Freeway is saying like artists shouldn't do that. I think he's talking about how influential the culture is. And he connected that with, you know, his own influence, right? There being, you know, the blaxploitation era and how it was a lot of violence and Superfly, the Mac, and all of that stuff, and how pop culture can influence a generation.
But is it art imitating life, or is it life imitating art?
Well, I think the question becomes like, what are like our responsibility? Because you just mentioned, I mean, now rappers are saying names on records.
Yeah. I mean,
and it's, you know, people are going to graveyards and of their enemies. I mean, it is a lot. I mean, it's getting to, you know, and this is much different from, you know, even the era that we come from,
of course,
of hip hop. So I would pass that to you, because you had also mentioned, and I know I want to come to you, Miracle. Part of why you hustled is because of like your socioeconomic conditions. I think a lot of times when we have these questions, it's like, yeah, you know, like the music is influential, but you know, a lot of times for us, it might be an economic decision. It's like where we are, you know, we're in neighborhoods where it's easier to get a gun than a job or anything like that. So do you also see like socioeconomic conditions playing a part in the way our community is right now?
Oh, definitely. No, with no question. But to your answer, what you were saying, I want to
100%. Please do.
Yeah. This is what we do here. Come on, let's talk to that. Come on.
Where is the counter to the violence? Because you can't say, you know, I look at this TV show Snowfall, and you know they come on, let's go. I want to talk about it off of me,
right? Of course,
1,000%.
If you didn't know, now you know. Yeah, come on,
1,000 off of my life.
Yes.
Right. They show absolutely no fun in this show. I'm like, these guys never have fun.
Right.
They always walking around angry. You know,
I mean, the wedding episode was kind of funny.
Yeah, but that wasn't fun. You know, he was in the bathroom having a mental breakdown, man. What are you talking about?
How is that fun? Somebody drops
LSD
in the
Lodge up my man Quincy on that show, man. Lodge up Quincy.
Come on. I mean, that's not something that happens in the hood. You know?
True.
Right.
We have fun in the hood too.
Come on, that's a fact.
We went out and we made money and we had fun.
Yeah.
And especially in South Central, we didn't fight with each other. Mm-hmm. The other drug dealers, we didn't fight. We was cool. We would go to Vegas, and we all sit in. One of the times that I remember most was, it was about 15 of us, and we all sitting at a big table in Vegas, and Don King walk up and shake everybody's hand at the table.
Wow.
So it wasn't like that. Now gang violence was there before the drugs started.
Of course.
It was already there. But we didn't perpetuate that. Mm-hmm. We didn't want the violence, because when you're selling drugs and violence don't match.
Come on.
They don't go together. You can't stand on the corner and sell drugs and your enemy is going to be coming by, drive-by shooting you. So what we wanted is, we wanted peace and calmness so that the police wouldn't be coming around. Right. But with this new mentality, they're inviting. Some of these guys get out of the drug business, get out of the streets. They're rich, and now they go back to the streets. They start buying drugs for the hood and guns and I mean, look what happened with Death Row.
Yeah.
They was on top of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to bring Miracle in, and then I definitely have a bunch of questions now that you brought up Snowfall about the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have a few questions. You mentioned wanting to be a tennis player, and you also mentioned learning how to read when you were incarcerated. Do you ever stop to like reflect and like what your life would have been like if you had known how to read while you were pursuing sports?
Absolutely. I probably would be what I am right now today.
Nice.
You know, when I look back, one of the things that I understand why I didn't read was because I didn't want to read the material that they was giving me. You know, I didn't want to know why Jack and Jill was going up a hill. My mom didn't have food in the house. You know, we had roaches and rats running around the crib. We had broken windows. You know, when you go to the sink in our house with the kitchen sink, the whole bottom of the floor was out because water had been dripping so long and it wore the wood out, and you could look from the sink to the ground. So when you're dealing with those things, the first thing you're thinking about is, how do I fix these problems? You know, not how can I do something that's going to benefit me when I get 18, 19 years old. No, I wanted to fix the problems that was happening right then and there. And I wanted to make some money, and had somebody showed me what I learned when I was in prison, that all I had to do was go get a book and the book would show me the path of making some money.
Oh, you had another question.
I
Go
have a few
ahead.
questions.
Please
Sorry.
go.
And so, being a pro se litigant, you're fighting for your life. You're
Ooh,
learning.
she came with the legal term. She's a lawyer.
Yeah, Miracle Jones
she-
Esquire.
Yeah,
So she's
Esquire,
a real,
yeah,
yes.
Yeah. See that? Came through with all the legalese.
Yeah,
you
'cause
got
I didn't-
people in
you
here that don't
confused
know
me.
what that shit mean.
Pro se, I didn't
You
know.
gotta explain.
Me, I didn't know what it meant.
Not everybody speak legalese or Latin, my nigga. You gotta come
Okay,
through
so
with layman's terms.
Being an individual who not only you educated yourself, you learn how to
There we
read,
go. Thank you.
but you also had to represent yourself like in court. Can you talk a little bit about that process? Because I know for me, when I was reading the Gibbs Factors, I was like, this is about Black people, how we talk, how we organize, how we hang out with each other. And so how was that process for you? Because I know for me, I struggled in law school just as like a student with the supports. But how was that experience for you to read these books, know that these cases were targeted for people like you, and
Well,
then be empowered to fight for your freedom?
It started off slow. You know, I had to learn my ABCs all over again. But it really started from an older guy that was in prison, and he broke it down to me like this here. My lawyer had came and seen me one day, and he said, Rick, you're counting on your lawyer to win your case? And I was like, yeah, I got a good lawyer. I paid him a nice piece of money. And he said, does he have other clients? And I was like, yeah. He said, does he have a wife? I said, yeah. Does he have kids? I said, yeah. He said, do you think he put your case in front of all of them? And I had to think about it, and I was like, no way possible that he would put me in front of all of those people, you know. So what he was telling me was that I shouldn't allow my lawyer to know more about my case than I knew about my case. Wow. I should know more about my case than anybody in court.
That's deep.
And that's basically what I did. After I learned how to read, I started reading the newspaper, and then I went to law books. I had bought me a dictionary because I understood that the dictionary kind of broke the words down and you know, so you could understand them and start to read them. And then I got the Black Law Dictionary, and I just started doing it, and not out of how hard it was, but it was out of necessity that I had to do it if I ever wanted to be sitting here with you.
And my last question, because I don't want to take up time, is we've had a lot of conversations within, I guess, the Black conscious community about like how much the government played a role in, you know, the crack era, the drug epidemic, and a lot of us are familiar with the Gary Webb interviews. For as much and as comfortable as you would like to share, can you just talk about what that relationship was like and like how the guns and the drugs got into the communities? Well,
I'll start off with how I wound up meeting Gary Webb. I think that's a good place to start. Well, one day I called my lawyer, and we're discussing the law. You know, we would discuss the law over the phone more than we did in person because he was out of L.A. and my case was in San Diego. And I called him one day, and he was like, hey, this reporter said that he has information for us that could help our case. And I was like, yeah, because my case was kind of dire. You know, my defense was entrapment. And that was because I wasn't selling drugs at the time that they came to me. I didn't even have any money to buy the drugs. I just gotten out of prison from my first bit. And my informant had called me, and he was like, I got 700 kilos of cocaine. I know you're trying to put that youth center together, and you keep asking all these people for money, and nobody's helping you. They're not going to help you. Do it on your own like you always did. And what I noticed that the government was doing was they were brainwashing me. You know, they were pulling me back into my old self again. And eventually they arrested me. You know, I did the deal. One of my little homies who I'd started out back in the day was doing pretty good for herself. And me and him was together, and they called me, and I was telling him, man, these dudes trying to get me to do woo, woo, woo. And he said, I'll do it. You know, you set it up, and I'll do everything. You don't have to do anything. You just chill out, and I'll give you the money that you need for the building. Well, anyway, I got arrested, and I was looking at a life sentence. So I called my lawyer that day, and he's like, this reporter. So I said, well, give me his number. Let me call him. So I called Gary, and we started talking, and Gary was like, well, Rick, you're going to probably win your case. They're not going to put that guy on the witness stand. He has too much baggage. And I didn't know what Gary meant by that, you know, but I I'd had a case before where the cops were crooked. You know, they
Right, you got off.
planting drugs on us, beat us in the head while we was handcuffed with flashlights, let dogs bite you. I mean, these cops were like gangsters, worse than gangsters probably. So I'm thinking that it may have something to do with that same scenario. I had no idea about the CIA and none of that. I did know that my informant was from another country. I did know that they were fighting a war in their country, you know, and that's why they were selling drugs. You know, at least that's what they had told me. We didn't go into much detail. You know, I'm still, you know, South Central, illiterate, don't read the newspaper, don't watch TV news. So I don't know nothing about a war going on in Nicaragua. Had not a clue. So Gary come down and he's sitting there with me, and Gary's real advocate about this guy is not going to get on the witness stand, and they're going to let you go. You going to walk out of here because this guy can't testify. So he's asking me all kind of questions about the guy. Where did I meet him at? What house did he stay in? And just Gary really was milking me in front of the beginning for information. He gave very little information. So when we went to trial, Gary became kind of like our investigator. You know, he was doing all the investigating work. So when we put the informant on the witness stand, Gary was telling my lawyer what to ask him about different people. Enrique Bermudez, who once my lawyer asked him about Enrique Bermudez, he said, "Oh, Enrique Bermudez is the head guy. He was the guy on the CIA payroll. He's the one who went on the fishing trip with George Bush. When he came back off the fishing trip, he said the ends justify the means, meaning that it was okay for them to sell drugs. And after the trial, I lost, and I got a life sentence, and Gary published his article about the ties with the CIA.
Yeah, so for those that don't know, you know, Gary Webb was a journalist from, I think, the San Jose Mercury News. He wrote a book called Dark Alliance about, you know, the CIA's role in, you know, getting you the cocaine that really flooded our communities, not just you, but really all over the country.
Right.
That led to, you know, what we call as the crack era. And then Gary Webb died mysteriously.
It was a shotgun, right?
Right. There was
Shots.
right.
Two shots to the head.
Yeah, 2 shots. It's ruled a suicide.
Right. It was ruled a suicide.
Yeah.
Right. 2 shots to the head. So rest in peace to Gary Webb. But that book, Dark Alliance, is one I recommend. First, you got to get Freeway Ricky's book, though. You got to get the books.
Yeah, we'll get to
directly.
We'll get to the white pages.
Yeah, from him. So I did have a question. You brought up Snowfile, and I'm gonna bring trouble on. So, you know, and you know, rest in power to John Singleton. So when John Singleton has this idea about the show, does he come to you like were you at all approached in any part of the creation of this now hit TV show Snowfall?
No, John never came to me at all about it. One time, Rodney Burns did, who I think was a showrunner for John. We had one meeting, and they told me about a show that they was working on, but it was real brief, and he never came back and mentioned it to me again. No.
So you didn't hear about it until what? Like a trailer comes out, or does somebody send the trailer to you?
We go into a meeting. I'm with Nick Cassavetti, and we go to a meeting to the Weinstein's office.
Right, and Nick Cassavetti is involved in the entertainment industry.
Yeah, Nick Cassavetti, his dad is the inventor of independent movies.
Okay.
Nick did Blow.
Okay.
He's the director and writer of Blow.
Very good movie.
And I thought that he would be the perfect one to do my story.
Absolutely.
So we were working together, and we go to the Weinstein's office, and we're talking about doing a deal, and then they come out of the back and was like, John Singleton's just been financed for Snowfall, so we're not doing another movie like that, another TV series like that. So the meeting was over like almost instantly, and that's when I found out about Snowfall.
So then, like, what? And I know this is something that, like, because Mike Tyson just went through this with Hulu. Hulu did a miniseries on Mike Tyson. He was actively saying, like, don't watch this. It wasn't something that was officially through him and his family. He didn't benefit, but that they can just take your life. So, like, what recourse do you have in terms of, you know, somebody kind of just fictionalized. Like, we all know, like, all of us that, you know, kind of live through that area, we know it's about you. You know what I'm saying? And that's part of what drove us to the story, because your personal story is so, you know, involved. I mean, even the fact that you had mentioned wanting to be a tennis star. I don't know if people know that your tennis coach was Richard Williams. Like, King Richard was.
No, it's two of them.
Okay, he was one of them.
It's two Richards.
So that's a different Richard Williams.
It's a different Richard.
Oh, damn! I was.
The other Richard Williams taught.
The other Richard Williams. Oh, wow, that's crazy. So you by proxy. So what recourse do you have as a person who, like, you're watching your?
It's really tough, because once you have so much stuff in the public domain, then they can just use that. If
right?
it's
Yeah.
in the newspaper, they can
character.
use it.
Yeah.
And you know, long as they don't. It's tough, you know, because I talk to lawyers have contacted me and asked me about suing, and then when we get into it, it's always that it's so much stuff in the public domain.
Right.
You know, I've done so many interviews, and it's just it's hard. I mean, but I'm past it. I'm just going to do my own series.
Right. So where is your own? Like, where does that sit now? Like, your own series officially about your life that shows the whole balance.
In Hollywood, they say I'm difficult to deal with. You know, 'cause I don't want no car. I don't want no shoes.
Yeah.
I don't need no jewelry. You know, you have to pay me.
Right. Absolutely.
So don't treat me like you
Don't treat you like a rapper.
Yeah, like you treat everybody else. I'm a little different than that. You know, I done had money.
That's what I was saying. You had all that stuff.
Yeah.
And my kids eat right now. You know, we not homeless no more. We done been through all that. So if you're not trying to help me, then I don't want to work with you. You know, don't come and tell me that you're going to make me famous. You know, I'm already famous. You know, everywhere I go, I take pictures.
Come on.
So what I had to do was I had to go out and grind my way in, you know, and show them what my value was. I can remember, you know, meeting with Ori Emanuel. I don't know.
Yeah.
A lot of people may not know who he is, but he's probably the most powerful guy in Hollywood for his movies go. And he told me that nobody wanted to read my book. And I said, okay, we're going to see. And now my book has been selling all over the country. And
Come on.
I don't even want to talk about the numbers, you know.
Yeah. Let's make some noise for the book, man. Let's make some noise.
Yeah. Come on, man.
There we go.
But the movie we go in pre-production in March.
Oh, congrats.
Yeah.
Oh, dope. Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have a working title yet? Or you can't say that?
I mean, we don't. It's the unofficial Rick Ross story. Is the working title.
All right, I got you.
And do we know, like, who's playing you?
We hoping we can get Childish Gambino.
Oh,
I did see you talking about this online. Yeah, I did see.
Hey,
Yeah,
That's what we shooting for.
yeah, I did see this. Yeah.
We just hired Mike Ho for the director.
okay. Oh, wow.
Which I love Mike. I think he I wanted a black guy to do it.
Yeah, I mean, come on, you know.
You know, I've been shooting for Antoine Fuquan.
Yeah. Pittsburgh. From Pittsburgh.
He's from Vancouver, right?
I thought he was from Homewood.
Is it Homewood? I'm not from Pittsburgh, nigga. So
About to get jumped.
If I'd use Antoine, Denzel said I was going to owe him 5% because he made the introduction. But yeah, I really wanted somebody black to do it because I thought that it should be kept, you know, close to the community. You know, this is a community story, and that's why I was really so hyped on John because he was from South Central, and I just felt that it was a perfect fit. But Reginald Hutland came on board.
Okay,
you know,
yeah.
and he got the project moving. You know, he got some new writers. He rewrote the script that Nick Cassavetes did. And we go in the right direction. And he said that, you know, I haven't even read the new script yet. They haven't let me read it, but Reggie told me that this is going to be a movie that's going to shock the world.
Man, I am. I'm happy. I'm happy to hear that. It's a good ending. Trouble, and just to put a little bit in context about, you know, this interview probably would not have happened if it was not for Trouble. You know, Trouble was our connect. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Reached out, and he was somebody that really kind of pushed for it. So I appreciate Trouble, you know, helping us make history here at One Hood. So I just wanted to put that in context. Thank you, brother.
So what's dope about this moment for me is that it's kind of a full circle moment, right? Because One Hood is the reason I even know who you are, because Jasiria put together a presentation where he was pretty much breaking down the media, who controls it, who owns it, and he there was a slide where he showed the rapper Rick Ross, and then he showed a picture of you and asked the room if we knew who you were.
Nah.
All of us were youngins, so we're like, "No, who's that?" And then he breaks it down to us. This is where the rapper Rick Ross got his name from.
Oh, that
And I'm like,
happens
oh,
all the
shit.
time.
Yeah.
I go to schools and kids have asked me, why did I change my name?
That's interesting. So, in that same presentation, I was introduced to the saying, "Until the lion learns to write, the story will always glorify the hunter." So that's kind of where our mission comes from, which is like giving young people and people everywhere the platform to tell their own stories. So my question is kind of a two-part question, because when I search you on Google, it says Rick Ross, the American author and formerly incarcerated drug trafficker. But my question is, how does Freeway Rick Ross define himself? And two, what is the legacy that you want to build before you leave this earth?
You know, that's a good one. I'm going to answer the last one first, because I don't really know how I define myself, but I know that I love the people, you know, so I guess I would want to be a man of the people.
I like that.
And when I was in prison, I was sitting there, right, and I'd won my appeal, so I know I'm going home one day. You know, I still got about 8-9 more years to do, but I'm going home now. And I started just talking to myself, you know. And they say it's all right to talk to yourself, just don't answer. So I'm talking to myself, and I'm like, man, you ain't never fill out a job application. What you gonna do? You can't go back to the streets. You know, for one, you now understand that selling drugs is detrimental to your people. So you can't go back to that. Otherwise, you will go against everything that you believe. So there's no way that I could go back to selling drugs. So I was sitting there, and I was like, wow, so what can you take to the people? You want to be a preacher? You know, because a lot of the guys in there start preaching and carrying the Bible. And I was like, nah, we got enough preachers already. What are you good at? And it came to me, economics. Go out, teach the people economics. Teach them how you think about money, how you work money, how money works for you. You know, because I started in the drug business with $125. I only wanted to make $5,000 when I started. I was going to give me some rims for my car and put me a new paint job on it. And I was going to live in my mama's garage for the rest of my life.
That's deep.
But once I got in and I started to learn the traits, which is economics is what it really is. Because if you take the drugs out of it, if it wasn't cocaine, I understand now, if I'd been selling tennis shoes, I probably would be Nike right now. So
True.
if you take the drugs out of it, then what I did was literally brilliant, you know, to go from $125 to $3 million a day sometimes. And you're dodging the cops. You're not advertising on the radio, you know, no billboards up. This is straight word of mouth, street talk, you know. And then I was so good at it that not only did I do well in the drug business, but there was people in places like Miami who heard about me and wanted to use my name, you know, and they heard this from the streets. It wasn't, you know, that they see it on the news or something like that. They hearing this from guys from the street. So I understood that I did an incredible job of marketing. And I just said I got to take those same skills now and not only use them for myself, but also teach others how to use those same skills.
That $3 million a day today from then is $9.6 million.
Oh shit!
Wow.
With inflation.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what, and that's wild. 9.6
really
a day.
is.
That's contract money. That's like NBA. You know what I mean? That's bro. So I had a question for you, right? So you just talk about Miami. When you started, did you see the international kind of reach happening of crack? Like, is that something you actually thought about?
No, not when I started.
Not when you. How long did it like set it? Because like I'm from Toronto, right? And did you watch the new BMF yet?
I did not.
Okay, so they got Dudis on the new episode of BMF from Shower Posse, right? And they have, you know, they go to Vegas and they like Don King's there. So I'm assuming what you just talked about was something that was happening at the casino. They had Big Meech there. They had Christopher
Yeah.
They had all these drug dealers there, and they were talking about all the areas that men were pushing weight in the different areas. Right. And I remember when Shower Posse came to Toronto, that's when we had to leave. And like crack hitting Toronto, crack hitting all these cities.
Yeah.
And then popping up in London. Right? Was that something how long did that take to get on your radar to think, wow, this really has an international appeal? Like this turned into something bigger than I could have actually thought about.
Well, I never thought about that.
Okay.
I mean, again, I was illiterate, had never read a book, didn't know what London was.
Right.
We're kind of confined in our communities, whether we know it or not.
Mm-hmm.
We got kids who in South Central, even though they're only like 5 miles from the beach, never been to the beach.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They don't know what the beach looked like other than on pictures. So what I'm saying is I was one of those. I was confined into my thinking, into the thinking that my community was thinking, and we never thought about going out the country. We never thought about
even making that much money. You never thought about like, yo, we're gonna get this passport and hit this beach somewhere.
Nah. I bought businesses,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I bought
a lot of businesses.
I bought hood businesses.
Yeah.
The ones that beauty salon, car wash,
hotel. Yeah.
Yeah, the hotel. That was a step outside of the norm. And I got lucky with that because my mom had put me out the house, so I started staying in motels, and I was like, no, they charged me $40 for this little room. I got to get me one of these, So you kind of learn as you expose.
True.
You can only do what you're exposed to, and that's why it's going to be so important for us to start to expose our children to more than just what they hear on a rap record or what they hear from the neighbor next door, because a lot of times we don't know where they got the information from.
Right. Yeah, that's one. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say a friend of mine that went down. He did 17 fed time, and he was telling me like all he knew to buy was cars. Like he looks back on it, he had all this money, but like nobody taught him about real estate or how to invest money, so he just had every new car because that was like as far as his mind went in terms of like I got money, I just get a new car. But I think you touched on it, but I wanted to maybe see if you can go a little bit deeper, right? Because a lot of people sold drugs, and there were even people selling drugs at the time you were. But just like you said, you innovated in a way, what I'm saying, that has made your name one, maybe the definitive name when it comes to that. What are was it because I read and that it was the fact that you were a tennis player, you didn't smoke, you didn't drink. Like, what were some of the things that you think that were like inherent with you or that you learned that you felt made you a good businessman outside of, like you said, yeah, you sold drugs, but people sell a lot of different things, and we can get into the Brofmans and the Kennedys and how they they took their legal business and made political dynasties or business dynasties. But what characteristics do you feel like made you? And I'm guessing that's what you put into the book, right?
It is. What I thought it was, because you going back over and you trying to figure out where you went right when you should have went left.
Right.
So the book that's how basically what the book is based on. Basically, what I think happened is by me being a tennis player, I have been exposed to a different side of life than say my brothers.
Yeah.
My brothers tried to sell drugs too, and they did lousy at it. Lucky for them, they never went to prison. I wind up just get out of here. I'll take care of you.
Got
you.
You
Gotta
got
worry
you.
about nothing. Stop selling drugs. You're doing terrible. So I believe that tennis had a lot to do with it.
Wow.
The discipline that it took in tennis, and then I learned to let your money work for you. I can't remember who taught me that, but somewhere down the line, I found out that my money could work harder than I could work, and that's one of the problems we have in the black community right now is that we don't protect our money. We give our money away to everybody. We buy things that people go and buy for $20, and they come back and sell it to us for $300. So I learned those things early on that I didn't care about their tennis shoes, I didn't care about their jewelry, I didn't care about their cars. I didn't buy a new car till I was making $1 million every day. First time I bought a new car. And matter of fact, I didn't even buy that car with my own money. The guys were gambling one day, and I walked in the gambling thing, and I had like $300, and I ran it up to like $45,000. So I took that money and went and bought a car because I was like, I'm gonna go spend their money. I ain't gonna give it back to them. So I just learned to let my money work for me. And when you pull the money back into the game, I found out that I could hook my suppliers on the money. So they got hooked on the money. And I try not to get too attached to anything, because whatever you get attached to, they can use that against you.
True.
So I try not to get attached to the jewelry, the clothes, the lifestyle that everybody else was living. Like when we go to Vegas, I never gambled. I would make my money off of guys who gamble, lose all their money, and they would come to me and say, man, I need to borrow X amount of dollars.
Wow, yeah.
And I would just loan the money. I was there with the money because I didn't gamble. So all of those are part of the principles that I believe that helped me elevate. I'm going to say this one thing. I got to mention this here. When I read this book called The Richest Man in Babylon, right? And he talked about going to the brick maker to buy diamonds. And when I read that story, I just hit myself upside the head. I said, knucklehead, you went to the dope man and asked him how to make some money. He gave you some drugs.
True.
Biggest mistake you made, So now I know, I want money. So now I'm going to the bankers, asking them how to make money.
So I think that's a perfect segue what I wanted to talk about, since we're talking about hip hop and like the inter-community aspect of keeping our money safe, right? We look at someone from a similar area, Nipsey Hussle, Nip was talking that and putting it into practicality. Like Nip was actually actualizing that and bringing, not only financial literacy and stability, but, a way to protect the black community from outsiders, right? Did you have any interactions with Nip before, he was taken from us?
We was cool. I
Yeah.
mean, we never did business.
Yeah.
I tried to do some business with Nip, but it's sometimes in our community, it's a status thing, like how
Right.
well are you doing? If you're doing well, they listen to you.
Of course.
George Soros said it best. He said when he was broke, nobody listened to him. But after he broke the banks of London, and heads of states called him for information.
Right.
So I wanted to help Nip.
Yeah.
I wanted to work with Nip, but we never got around to doing it. But we was cool. We hosted a few parties together.
Yeah.
And we would talk in the party, but we were never able to. And I wish he would have.
Yeah.
Let me help him. I believe had he worked with me, he would still be alive right now today.
That's powerful. Like, we look at hip hop, right? And we were talking about hip hop where, a lot of the music influences for one reason or another. Nip's influence is still being felt today. Of the last 10 years, Nip might be the most influential rapper. If not, he's definitely top 5. And a lot of that isn't for what he said on records. It's for what he did, on road. It's for what he did in his community. How can other rappers, in your opinion, follow that blueprint?
Well, I mean, they just got to make the effort. You got to literally, and not just rappers. I mean,
right.
Our rich, wealthy people have to get in their head that it's okay to come back and help. I'm under the impression now that rich or wealthy black people don't help out because they feel like if they help out, they'll be punking out. They almost feel like if they help you, you're taking something from them, or they don't. Like with me, I get a kick out of helping people. I love to be the one to say, yeah, I helped him come up. Even in the dope game, that's one of the ways that I really came up, because I would be looking for guys who were trying to come up, and I would give them their first ounce, sometimes their first 2 ounces, and I would show them the ropes. But in our community right now, our wealthy people don't look at it like that. They don't look at it like giving you a hand up is beneficial to them, and I think that has to change. We have to get to where we're putting money back into our community, and it don't make you soft because you came in the hood and you helped out.
Are there, excuse me, are there artists? I mean, when I think about, like I said, your influence on hip hop, I think of, Jay-Z saying, Reagan turned me into a monster. You know what I'm saying? Talking about, Iran-Contra. Are there any artists that, like, since you've been out, that you have kind of built with, established a relationship with? Because, like you said, your story influenced so many has, like, just taken parts of your story and made them, like, legendary quotes or bars.
None.
Wow.
Oh, that's terrible.
I haven't had one person to come to me and say, here's $100,000, here's $50,000, take it and work it.
Now let me ask you, if it happened, would you accept it?
For sure I would.
Okay.
I could use it.
I would argue, hey brother, I would argue you're owed more than that, man. Much more.
Yeah. I mean, people built entire careers off of your name.
100%.
You know what I mean? People like, content for albums, arguably classic albums.
Yeah.
Classic pieces. I mean, even like the thing is like if you don't know, right? And
What's your cash app? We're gonna send this out.
Yeah. I mean, we're gonna take care of the books, but
what's your cash? No, I'm just saying, like, I really, it's shocking.
If you see my documentary, they put me and my mom and them out of her house. I'm hanging with Floyd Mayweather. Floyd came and picked me up. We were hanging at that time. Floyd might have hung out with me for about a year.
Right.
And we got kicked out of our house during that time for $45,000.
Wow. And that's the thing, like, your legacy, if anybody is familiar with pop culture and not familiar with Rick Ross, like, Snowfall.
Yeah. No, I mean, bro.
Grand Theft Auto San Andreas.
Yeah. I mean, just so
Grand
many.
Theft Auto 5.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The rapper Rick Ross. Freeway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's so much in the black community that has idolized.
True.
And romanticized and popularized your exploits.
And got paid.
And got money. And the thing is like the people that got paid the most aren't from the community.
True.
You know what I mean? Like, the
Absolutely.
people who got paid the most aren't from the community. They don't
True.
look like us. And that, I think at One Hood, that's one of the things we do is we take control of our narrative. Right? So when we talk to people like yourself and talk to youngers about, like, how important it is to own your everything, all right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I mean, just like to be able to own and claim your own shit, because like you said, because so much stuff you did with public domain after the statute of limitations, you couldn't really defend yourself against the law. You couldn't defend yourself against these predatory practices.
But I feel like there's like legal stuff and then there's principle.
Absolutely, two different things.
And I just
two
feel
totally
like
different things.
The principle, like you said, when you came out off principle, like even if you did your legal precedents, should have been here's something. You know what I'm saying? It should have been here's something. And
care package. When you go to jail, 100%.
Come on,
as I walk in the jailhouse,
come on. First, as soon as you get in gym pop,
some underwear,
yeah.
Like we don't do that on the streets.
Yeah.
Ain't no love for guys when they come back from prison, when they hit the streets. And those are things that I'm saying that we as a community, we got to set those up. What
True.
about when our young geniuses go to Stanford and Harvard? Where do they go?
True.
If they got an idea, they go to Amazon. They go
right. One of these venture capitalists,
Apple.
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
sell their ideas
True.
instead of keeping them where the hood can benefit off of them. And I really feel that my movie should have been done by the hood.
Yeah.
It shouldn't have been.
I mean, it has been probably terribly like 15, 20 times. You know what I'm saying?
Was it
But
Tubi?
thankfully, Tubi. Like, thankfully now you're gonna do it right.
Yeah, they're going to get the real one this time.
Yeah.
So I did have a question, because you talked about these care packages, and you were reflecting about the next stages of your life when you were coming home. We know a lot of people are coming home from the Fed, especially from people who got a lot of those decade sentences in the 80s. Are there any programs that you see creating to help people transition back? Because we know you said you learned to read while you were inside. We know in some places people still can't learn to read because they are considered dangerous or violent, so they can't get some of those programs. They can't do some of the job trainings. Do you see yourself stepping into kind of that reentry industry and trying to
absolutely
create that type of program?
And I go to prisons whenever they allow me to go inside a prison and speak. I do. I love going inside a prison. I speak better in prisons than I do on the street, because I've been out 14 years now, but I'm still more jail than I am street. You know, I can deal better with guys from prison than I can deal with people on the street, which I deal pretty good with them as well. But
you did how much time?
I did 20 years. So there's people talking about setting up programs like that, but right now, to this day, I don't know of any that's done. And I want to do a program like that myself, because I understand what it takes to. I know what a person should be doing in prison if he wants to come out and be as successful as I am right now, and I'm not where I know I'm going to be here in next year. This is probably going to be my biggest year. This year here is going to be my year that the kids will no longer ask me when I go to school, why did I change my name
Wow.
to Rick Ross.
Yeah.
But no, I don't know of any programs. And I think that we should have those. You know, we should have a place where our brightest minds can go and get assistance. You know, we got kids they call me and they never done no crimes, no nothing, and they have ideas, but there's nobody that can help them put their ideas in fruition.
No, that's something that we strive to do at One Hood, particularly with artists. You know, we try to, like, artists that, you know, you have, you know, talent, you have gifts, but you might not have the financial resources to, like, bring your art to fruition. That's one of the things that we strive to do here, to give resources for artists to help, you know, to help them do that. We're at about an hour. Any just final questions for Rick?
I know Trouble has a couple more.
Oh no, I got mine mostly out of the way.
One question I want to ask, right? Because, like, I had joked when I came on and said I was the hardest crack baby alive, but it's like, has anybody ever come to you and be like, "Yo, you ruined my family"?
All the time.
Right? Does it still happen?
It did. Once in a while, it does.
Like,
how do you respond to that?
Yeah.
Well, I understand their feelings. You know, I'll tell you, and if you get a chance, you got to read this article. But we were at a panel for LA Magazine. They did an article on me in 2013 called "Rick Ross is Dreaming," and me and Jesse Katz was on stage, and we was talking, and this girl got up and she was like, "You the reason that my mama died because she was on crack," and I understand her feeling. But what I tried to get her to understand is that we have to stop pointing the finger and have to start taking some responsibility for ourselves.
There we go.
Because nobody put a gun up to her mom's head and told her to use crack.
Yeah.
You know, she volunteered to go out. Now, if somebody put a gun up to your head and make you smoke crack, then that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
But if you volunteered to go out and you paid your money for crack, then you have to take some responsibility for your actions as well. And I tried to explain that to the young lady that her mom has to take some responsibility.
Yeah.
She has to understand that her mom made a choice to use drugs, and that when her mom was using drugs, I've been in jail 4 years already. So
Yeah.
she didn't get the crack from me. But I do understand her feelings about me being a crack dealer and affecting her. But yeah, I get that once in a while, not as much as I used to. And I did apologize to her for me being involved in crack.
Right. But it's similar, kind of like you said, to artists. Like, people know you, but we don't know the CIA guy or the guy that worked for Drug Enforcement Agency and all that. Like, we don't know the guy who you had mentioned that was on the boat with George Bush and all of that. I mean, that came out during the Iran-Contra, and of course Oliver North did his little time, but he's right back.
But Oliver North got a pardon. You got jail time.
Yeah.
That's and so
100%.
Just one more thing, because, like, this is, to me, you were a person in my household my whole life, whether I wanted to accept it or not, right? My mom was on crack and my dad was in the Panthers. My father and I used to get into arguments about you, right? Because my dad, in the way he looked at things, you were the problem. And I was like, there's no way that one person allowed all this shit to happen.
Right.
You're not the reason that my mom did X, Y, and Z. Like you said, personal accountability, right? But the influence that you had on my life, from hip hop to cinema to, you know, the streets, I always felt wildly connected to just the legacy. This is my first time meeting you. And like I said, like, when I seen that on Snowfall, how they did Franklin's dad, you know, kind of like being from the movement and then actually being in the streets because he was on that shit, and then his mom kind of being on the other side of it, I felt like a personal connection. I was like, oh, this shit is fucking similar. Did you have any experience with, like, brothers from the movement, anybody kind of coming at you like, okay, listen.
Nobody really knew me. So nobody could really, if you wasn't in my circle, you wouldn't know that I sold drugs.
Right.
My mom knew, the preacher knew. Well, and mom really didn't know. She just hear it. Like they don't have no evidence that I sell drugs. Other than, I got nice things now.
Of course.
I drive a nice car, and, I wear decent clothes, and I got a maid, and, and all the guys are following me around. So those were her clues that I was selling drugs.
Right.
But she never saw drugs. She never saw more than maybe $100,000, $150,000 because I didn't show her money.
Right.
Because I was still, my mom was a Christian, so I still didn't want her to. She felt that selling drugs was like being the devil.
Yeah.
Right.
She was like, "Oh, you curse, boy, you gonna get killed." And she also thought that I was gonna get killed. Like she thought that I was a part of the mob. Like you didn't sign up for the mob.
Yeah.
And you can't get out. And so I definitely didn't allow her to know that I was selling drugs. So people who didn't know me, who wasn't directly connected to me, wouldn't have known that I was selling drugs. Like if I was in the street, nobody would know who I was.
And I think that was part of that brilliance, right? That you weren't the flashy person. You kind of kept it.
That let me go 8 years.
Yeah, you kept it low key.
Other guys only last 2 years, 3 years. Because,
That's a hell of a run. That's a hell of a run.
The drug dealer's lifespan is probably about 3 years.
Yeah.
And most of them get busted about 3 years.
Yeah. Did you? I think last question I had is like, I remember talking to and I've been able to visit prisons and speak in prisons before, and I remember talking to a friend of mine who was locked up, and he was saying, man, like the average age of the people coming into prison was 19, and the average sentence was like 15 to 20 years. Did you, when the youngest would come in, like I'm sure like you was the OG. So like for those that like, again, you talked about like drug dealing being romanticized, right? Not only in film and TV, but also in hip hop music, where it's like the thing, we just went to and shout out to my man Jay and the Reach program that does a lot of great work in Pittsburgh. But he invited us to Obama, and one of the things we noticed like all the kids had Jordans, like the fresh. like everybody had the fresh Jordans. I was like, yo, they kind of, what I mean? Like, not to point you out, but you fresh with it. So like what would your advice be as somebody that, was the top of the chain in terms of drug dealing, in terms of making money, owning businesses, to somebody that went through prison and is now using your fame and celebrity to reach back and give back to our communities? What advice would you give for those young people that's in the game, or even thinking about maybe listening to rap and thinking, I'm struggling, my family don't got a lot of money, I want to look nice too, I don't want to be made fun of when I go out, so I got to get it. Like, what would you say to them?
I think drug dealers are brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
That part.
I think they're some of the smartest people. They really, these are really the leaders of the community, and I use that to my advantage in my new stuff that I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
When I got out of prison, I went to the streets. I went to the hoods. Guys bought my book who don't even read. And these were street dudes. So I knew that they are the leaders. They're the ones that's going to step out first. They're going to take the chances. Because in any business that you go in, you got to be willing to take a chance. One of the things that Mike Ho, the director of the movie, said from all of the investigation, because what they did in the movie, what we did, I didn't want my movie to be my point of view only. I wanted my friends to speak out, because sometimes we see ourselves in one light and then your friends see you in a different light. So I wanted to see the light that everybody else saw me in as well. So we did a lot of investigation, and one of the things that Mike said about me is that I take chances. I'm willing to stick my neck out, and most drug dealers are willing to stick their neck out. If you tell Bill Gates, I remember he was going through his antitrust thing, and if they would have told him, Bill, we're gonna put you in jail if you don't shut Microsoft down, he would have probably shut the whole company down. Mm-hmm. Rather than going to prison. But they tell brothers,
true.
We normalize jail. I mean, that's part of the process.
Yeah. We're going to put you in jail if you don't stop.
We be out there.
And
Yeah,
we still
yeah.
out there doing
True,
it. They
true.
put him in jail. He get out. He go right back to the block.
Come on, man.
True,
So,
true.
so if you can take that mentality and change it to legitimate business, where the only thing you're gonna be risking is some money. Because I understood, every time I go and do a $3 million drug deal, I was risking my money. The whole $3 million was at risk every single time.
True.
All my guys' life was at risk, including my life was at risk. So we were willing to put it all on the line. Everything we were putting on the line. And when you're willing to do that, one of my favorite books say, when a man is willing to stake even his existence on his success, he should surely win. And that's why I have total confidence right now that I'm going to win, because what I did is I went right to the line of going to jail. I'm not going to do nothing that's going to send me to jail. I'm not going to do nothing that's going to get me killed. But I'm going right to that line.
So,
Wow.
Powerful.
I did have a question though, about going right to that line. You lived a full life. You're in this transition, so this is going to be a big year for you. How are you protecting and maintaining your mental health? And what is bringing you joy?
Just life is bringing me joy. I'm just if you have to die and get your life back to understand what appreciation is. When me and my guys, we used to walk the track, we used to call ourselves the Walking Dead. And to now no longer be one of the Walking Dead, to be alive again is just joyful. I'm happy every day. I haven't had really a sad day since I've been home, except when my mom passed. That was a little bad, but even that I was able to handle that with what I feel was the proper way to handle it. So I'm excited right now about life. I feel that I'm living my best life. Is what's his name? Duval says, yeah. And I feel like my mental is good. I feel like I'm in a good space. Even though sometimes you can feel one way, and I understand they say stress. You may not know you're stressing, but I really feel like I'm in a good place. I feel like that I'm going to help a lot of people.
Yeah.
In their transitions, even with my books, this book here is about my first 6 months out of prison.
Wow.
And it's crazy how this came about. This guy, Coley Crutcher from New York, had wrote me when I was in prison. And he had a magazine called Get Money. And I was like, man, you got a magazine called Get Money? I said, have you read these 3 books? And I told him about my 3 favorite books. I read over 300 books while I was in prison, too. And not fun books, about the streets, because I already knew the streets.
Yeah.
People ask me, you watch Big Meech? And I don't watch no Big Meech. For what? I lived that life.
Yeah.
I don't watch Snowfall. I live Snowfall. So I didn't need to read any books about the streets. I knew the streets. I grew up on Figueroa. That was the track where the women walk. So I don't need to know about no pimps. I knew them. I grew up with them. So I didn't need none of that. But what I did know is I didn't know who Sam Walton was.
Wow.
I didn't know who Crockett was, the guy who put McDonald's together.
Yeah.
I didn't know who Phil Knight was, the guy who started Nike. Like a lot of our people, they wear the shoes, but they don't even know who the owner is. So I wanted to know those guys' stories. I wanted to know how they became who they became. And after I read all those books, I saw the same qualities that they had. I saw in myself as a drug dealer, but I made the mistake of going to a drug dealer, asking him how to make money. And I just feel that now I can show other people how not to make that same mistake. Don't take your talents and use them for something that, one day they come in and they just take everything from you.
What were those 3 books?
Oh, The Richest Man in Babylon, Think and Grow Rich, and As a Man Think, or As a Woman Think.
Well, speaking of books, right, we have a segment on our podcast
called White Pages.
And our books today, 2 books. Riding with Rick, The 21 Keys of Success, like you said, 6 months out. And then the second book is, the Untold Autobiography, Freeway Ricky Ross. Like you said, they said it wouldn't sell. Well, it's a Los Angeles Times bestseller. You know what I'm saying? With Rick Ross.
She'll be a New York Times bestseller as well.
Absolutely. So, and we want to, I see, a couple young brothers here that reached. I don't know if there was. I think there's a couple other young brothers here. We want to gift these books to y'all for coming, and so we're gonna give you these books just for spending your time with us today. Hopefully, I think Rick has a couple of minutes to sign books as well directly to you. And with that being said, man, this was a legendary episode of This Week in White Supremacy. Can we give it up one more time for Freeway Rick Ross, y'all? So we see y'all next time. Peace. One hood.